conservative forces that preserve the old ways. Because what parents realize is that English has somehow got tangled up with the life chances of their children. So if you want to set your child on a good course for life, then he must pass tests, especially in post-war Japan, and one of those tests is English.
Japanese parents' dream is bilingual children.
Well, is that really?
Yes. But examination is very contradictional.
Yeah.
It's a contradiction.
Yeah, the system of Juken Benkyo is really poisoning the whole process. So even though we know what to do, the forces, the conservative forces, are so powerful that we can't do it.
So parents, if parents speak English to their children when they're little, is it okay?
Yes, of course. If parents can speak English
Even
to their
Japanese
children,
and
yet even if they have a incomplete command of English grammar, even if they have bad pronunciation, that doesn't matter. If it's English, and the child is understanding in English, and child grows up to have that as a second way of communicating with some people. One of the children, there's a family, the Ihara family, and I got to know the mother, Kaoru Ihara, and the son, Kai. And the Iharas are both Japanese and not particularly proud of their English, but they decided that they would speak English to Kai maybe 50% of the time, since he was a baby. And Kaori said that it was difficult because at first she didn't even know the word for diaper. But she learned, and they had fun together, and they spoke English to Kai. So when Kai was 2.5, he was forming English sentences in perfect manner. Kaori said that they were driving along in the car, and Kai said, "Mama, the first driver waved to us, and the second driver waved to us, but the number 3 driver did not wave." Perfect English grammar, and he had control of the, just throwing in the, just automatically. That's something that our high school students
can't do it.
Can't do.
Even the mother doesn't know.
Can't do it.
And the only thing he forgot was third for number 3.
Yeah. Well, that's 2.5 years old.
At the age of 2.5, you can be forgiven. But what he was forming was a perfect English sentence, and that's all that's required. And not good pronunciation. That's not required. Just having the sense of the rhythm and the flow and the subject and the verb, just as a sense, because no child knows the grammatical terms. No child knows abstractions, just how to do it.
Picked it up.
And he could sure do it. And his accent in English was, of course, not a native speaker accent. But when I think Kai is just about a teenager now. I think so.
How?
So in junior high school and high school, he's going to have friends and people he wants to sound like. And if he wants to sound like a native speaker of English, the junior high school and high school people are very good at changing their pronunciation, changing their way of speaking. So you never hear a person whose goal is to speak English as a native speaker. You never hear him speaking strangely. He will pick up the native speaker accent if he wants to, and he will do that.
So he started as almost as an infant. Then.
Yeah,
Okay.
here's Cowdy changing his diapers and saying to him, "I'm changing your diapers." And of course, before he even talked, but he was hearing.
He was hearing.
And at that time in their lives, babies are growing neurons in their brain 1,000 times faster than they do later.
No.
And so you don't have to talk very much for them to build whole neural sequences to suit English, which is what he did, without effort.
Well, that leads to the critical age
I
thing.
wanna
Yeah.
know.
So then, if
critical
so
age, yeah.
because the small an infant, that was important in the development.
Yeah, starting in the
But by
beginning.
10 or 11, that probably would have been more difficult.
It would have been more difficult, not impossible.
Oh, no.
But more difficult
Yeah.
maybe. But we started this question with the notion that maybe Japanese parents should not try to speak English to their children because their English is not perfect.
Or they might have an accent. Or
That idea is absolutely wrong.
Okay.
They should not be shy. They should
Okay.
speak
Okay.
whatever they can
Then
because it's English.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I'm quoting Harold Palmer on that.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. Palmer wrote in 1929.
Yeah,
that-
1929, right? That's a long time ago.
Well, he was here from 1923 to
Something like that, yes.
1936 and trying to improve the English teaching situation. So he said in 1929 that he would very much like to get beginning Japanese students and to talk to them only in English for the first 6 weeks. He wanted them 1 hour a day for the first 6 weeks. But he said at the end of 6 weeks, I will have them speaking English. I will have them naturally using the flow of English, the logical structure of English sentences with a reasonable vocabulary of 500 words or something like that. And they will have good accents. And Palmer said, if you let them get a bad accent, then it's a difficult job to change a bad accent into. But if you start them off with a good accent, you're okay. But Palmer said, actually, in Japan, a lot of the teachers don't have native speaker accents. They're Japanese. That's okay.
That's okay.
The most important thing is for them to get the flow and the feeling of English. The accent will improve later.
You can get that later.
So even if the teachers are Japanese teachers,
So
they can do this.
this year, 2011, in elementary school, they start officially English
Yeah.
lesson. So it's good time to start when children are 11 or 11 or 12 years old.
Well,
Yeah,
whenever
elementary
you
school,
can.
that would be 7 years old, right?
Yeah.
7, but not the first year.
Oh, not the first year. Oh, I see.
But when do we?
As soon as possible, I
As
suppose.
soon as possible.
Yes, exactly, as
So
soon as
for
possible.
First year is the best.
Yeah.
you
But
think?
there's a method of teaching that doesn't seem to diminish its power with the age of the student. And it's called
Any
the direct method.
correct method?
And actually, it was the method of Berlitz until they got bought by another company and lost track of what it was they were trying to do. But in the direct method, you start out talking about real things with students, physical objects, no abstractions, physical objects. I'm picking up the pen. Can I put my pen in my coffee?
No.
No, I better not. I'm going to put the pen back on the desk. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't risk putting anything in my coffee. I'll put the lid back on my coffee cup. Now, after a little bit of that, a person of any age will know exactly the word pen, the word coffee, the word cap for coffee cup, and how to make English sentences. And the how to make English sentences part is the whole trick. So old people, retirees, intelligent people, uneducated people, children, people of all ages can learn to speak a language by the direct method. And they've been doing it for 400 years that anybody knows about. People, from time to time, people rediscover the direct method and think they have invented it themselves. And yet there is kind of a continuity of the tradition. And that's the method of teaching in elementary school. You say to the students, what shall we do today? Do we have time? Let's look at Mr. Baca's watch. Oh, we have only 2 minutes. You always with concrete objects. In fact, some people call it the objective method, simply because, not because it's objective instead of subjective, but because it uses objects.
Palmer said the same thing. Palmer.
Yes. Yeah, I'm stealing Palmer's idea.
I learned
Actually,
Palmer.
Oh, you did? Oh, that's wonderful. Palmer started teaching teaching English in Belgium in around 1900, 1901. And his school was using the Berlitz method. It wasn't licensed by Berlitz. It was kind of, they were stealing Berlitz's style. But it worked wonderfully, and Palmer was really impressed. And for the next 20 years, Palmer taught by that method and studied, tried to figure out why does it work. And he began to write books until by 1920, Palmer was probably the leading theoretician about teaching English in the world. And that's why they invited him to Japan. Here, Dr. Palmer, fix Japan. And he ran up against the same barriers that
much hasn't changed.
we're familiar now.